The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
With the help of everyone here today, we're going to win the state of Michigan this November. We're going to fire crooked Joe Biden. We are going to evict the Biden crime family from the White House, and we are going to make America great again. Have you heard that expression?
That was Donald Trump over the weekend in Detroit, where I had the pleasure of being. If you missed the show on Friday, I was not here. Thank you to Cameron Smith for filling in. I do appreciate it. I was out in the Mitten State for the People's Convention, and we had a fantastic time. We did. Crazy, crazy, crazy. It's always a good time when you're at a Turning Point event, but this one was special. I mean, the energy was just electric. The people were very, very hype. The lineup was insane. I met quite a few guys. I met Vivek Ramaswamy, Donald Trump Jr., Byron Donalds. Like I didn't like sit down and have extended conversations with these guys, but I got handshakes and nobody had the limp handshake, which is always a good sign. I met a World War II veteran. This happened right as Trump was taking the stage. It was actually a really cool moment. There's a World War II veteran, and they had him off to the side. He's in a wheelchair. He's there with his daughter. And Byron Donalds actually came over to shake the guy's hand. And the daughter said, can I get a picture with you and my dad? And I grabbed the phone. I said, you jump in the picture too. I'll take the picture. Shook Byron Donalds' hand. And about 30 seconds after that, the Turning Point staff recognized that the gentleman was a World War II veteran, and they moved him from the side to front and center so that way he could watch the speech. They just have classy people working there, and they looking out for a veteran like that was fantastic. And it was It was my honor to be able to shake this World War II veteran's hand. It was fantastic. The entire weekend was great. And as we're there, circling around the city all weekend long was one of those electronic billboard trucks that says MAGA is not welcome in Detroit. It's so funny because when you talk to the people on the ground and you're meeting people where they're at, MAGA was very welcome in Detroit. In fact, by the end of the weekend, a lot of the citizens of Detroit were wearing MAGA hats themselves. There was Turning Point staff out there, handing out hats, and people that were selling hats, they had extras. They're just giving them out to the locals. Here you go. Welcome to the team. Because people understand what's going on. And if you live in a city like Detroit, you see the economy the way it is, and you don't have grocery stores or police presence or firefighter presence, who are you going to lean on to help you? The Democrats have destroyed that city since the 60s. It's time for a change. And I remember I had this conversation when I lived there. I was with my wife's family. So her uncle lives there, her cousins. And I said, they're Democrats, but, we love them. But I remember saying, guys, why wouldn't you vote Republican? Like, after all these years, nothing's changed. It's only gotten worse. Why wouldn't you at least try? And I remember the dirty looks I got. This was back in 2015. This is right as the Flint water crisis is happening. We were living there. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Although I might be wrong on the date. But I remember this conversation. I remember that they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, how could you say something like that? But it seems like the people in the actual city this weekend are looking at what's going on in this country, and maybe they're ready for that change. Do I think Detroit is going to vote red? Maybe not. Do I think Detroit is going to have more Republican votes for Donald Trump this election cycle than the last one? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's because Trump goes out there and he speaks to people where they're at. He meets them where they are. He wasn't just at the People's Convention over the weekend. He also made the most of his time in Michigan, and he had a pastor's round table. And one of the pastors in Detroit said to him, listen, no one else has come to the hood.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Very humble, really nice. Thank you.
My honor.
I think that this is a big change that we're seeing with the Republican Party, with Trump meeting people where they're at, whether it's the Bronx rally, whether it's that massive rally he had in New Jersey, where he's going to the bodegas in New York City. Now he's in Detroit. Go where people don't think you're going to go, because you know what? Biden's not going to go sit with those pastors. Biden's not going to go meet with those community leaders. And this makes a difference. It really makes a difference. And at that pastor's round table, Trump is talking with them, and the pastors are speaking about Biden's failures. And look at what Biden did in Afghanistan.
Look at how Joe Biden became the president and allowed Afghanistan to collapse and allowed our soldiers to die it angers me.
You can hear the guys in the audience yelling for no reason. For no reason. I was actually encouraged that Afghanistan was brought up, because so often we have short memories. So often we're on to the next thing in this digital age. Our attention spans have shrunk. But it's good to hear people bring up failures from a couple of years ago.
And we had a president who loved our soldiers, and we need to put our president back in office. And I just want to know, President Trump.
And I think that one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about the black community is that they are rather conservative. For a majority of the history in this country, they're very, very religious, very Christian. And they look at all the woke stuff and go, it's not for me. And this is at a pastor's round table. They're talking about the military, and one of the pastors says this.
Please don't allow our soldiers to walk around wearing red high-heel shoes.
Please don't let our soldiers wear red high-heel shoes.
Thank you, fellas.
He does have a point.
Yeah, he has a point. It seems like the military's gotten more woke and more woke and more woke. The government's gotten more woke and more woke and more woke. People are turned off by this. Now, it was low-hanging fruit at that point for Trump to really rail on military leadership, right? You know, you look at the leadership in the military, we all understand what's going on and how it's been going woke. We've seen the Navy cross-dressing influencers trying to hype up recruitment. We've seen recruitment numbers dip because of it. But Trump didn't take that moment to really bash the leadership. He made a mention, but Trump actually used the moment to still look out for our soldiers that are out there that are, you know, rank and file guys, the hardworking men and women of the military.
And I will tell you, our soldiers, other than the people on the top that you see on television, and some of them are really just weak and pathetic and bad, the way they got out of Afghanistan, getting out was fine. We were going to get out with dignity and strength. We weren't going to leave people behind, and we weren't going to leave equipment behind. Think of it, $85 billion worth of brand new equipment we left, and they're one of the largest sellers right now of military equipment in the world. They left 70,000 trucks, many of them armor-plated, 700,000 rifles. I don't know why we had so much equipment over there, but they had it, they bought it, and we left it. Brand new stuff, goggles, night goggles where they can see perfectly, so now the Taliban can fight at night. But you know that, we left it over there. I will say, though, we defeated the ISIS caliphate, and our soldiers are real soldiers. They're not going woke. Nobody's going to talk them into going woke. Those guys did their job. And you're so right. Thank you, Carlos.
I love it. I mean, he could have really used that opportunity to bash military leadership. He could have really used that opportunity to go in on the ideology that's been pushed by the left. He could have used it for so many different things, but he looks out for the soldiers. Still, after all that we've all seen, he's still so pro-military that he used the opportunity to big them up. But Trump is out there in Detroit meeting people where they're at. And he makes a connection with people. Ben Carson was also in Detroit. And I think Ben has one of the best insights into Trump. And it's about how he meets people where they're at. It's about how he has this human connection with people that Joe Biden just can't have. He just can't. For whatever reason, Biden is lacking that one-to-one connection that you really need to like connect with people. Biden can't do it. He head bumps the Pope. Like that's his best shot. But Ben Carson's in Detroit. This is at the People's Convention, and he says, Trump, he's not your typical politician, and that's why this is working.
President Trump is not your typical politician. He doesn't run around with his finger in the air saying which way the wind is blowing. And, he's very different. The first time I met him, neither one of us were running for president. I was at Mar-a-Lago, and I was talking to him, and somebody came up to him and said, Rod Stewart is here. Rod Stewart is here. He says, I don't care, Ben Carson's here. And I'm talking to him. But, I think people genuinely know that he cares, I noticed that the workers at Mar-a-Lago, he knows their names, he talks to them, they love him. The same thing at Trump Towers, all the places he actually communicates with people. He's not just using people like typical politicians do. And that's why the people in the Bronx and all these places where they don't expect him to have any traction, they recognize what's going on.
Yeah, they do recognize what's going on. Ben was fantastic to watch. Ben Carson, while I don't think he's like VP material, he's such a brilliant guy. I've had the privilege of seeing him speak a couple times now. I obviously saw him over the weekend in Detroit, but I've also seen him before at World Outreach Church in Murfreesboro. And he's actually, I don't know if you guys know this, Ben Carson is going to be at World Outreach Church in Murfreesboro this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. If you've never had the opportunity to see Ben Carson live and just like hear from him, he is so brilliant. I would invite you to go check that out because he's going to be there Saturday and Sunday in Murfreesboro. My wife texted me while I was playing that audio. She's like, don't forget, Ben's going to be there this weekend. So if you want to see Ben Carson, Saturday and Sunday, World Outreach Church in Murfreesboro, he is brilliant, Absolutely brilliant. But the Trump rally in Detroit, I mean, it was fantastic. The energy was so high. Trump was just on point, and I couldn't say enough nice things about his speech. His speech was fire. I'm listening, and I'm doing these things where, like, I pay attention to people as we're walking out after the speech to kind of gauge what the vibe is. Like, I can form my own opinion, but I want to see, like, how everybody else felt about it. And I'm hearing people saying, that was the best speech I've ever heard him give. That was electric. He was on fire. The entire crowd felt the exact same way. And he does it by just pointing out things that are true, things you can't argue with. Like the fact that he was creating manufacturing jobs, and Obama said he couldn't do it.
Under my leadership, we created 500,000 manufacturing jobs in 3 short years. Remember, Biden and Obama would go around saying, we can't manufacture here anymore. That's because we had stupid people leading our country.
Still do.
We lifted up all Americans, black, brown, white, and everybody else. Everyone was doing better. Everybody was doing great. But now, Crooked Joe is doing a hit job on Michigan manufacturing and on Detroit, the likes of which I have never seen before.
No, it's been a hit job across the economy with Joe Biden in office. We've all felt it in every industry. Whether you're building houses or you're driving trucks, you're feeling this economy. If you're working over at Nissan or you're working at Kroger, you're feeling it in this economy. But Maganomics, Trump says, is coming back.
Upon my inauguration, we will throw out Bidenomics and replace it with Maganomics. Maganomics. And in less than 4 years, Crooked Joe's inflation nightmare and energy price hikes, the likes of which we've never seen before, they've cost the typical American household $28,000. The monthly cost of a typical mortgage has doubled and tripled even. We had it at $2. Think of this. We were at 2.3%. And he's at probably 10%, but you can't get money. The numbers are crazy. The food numbers, the energy numbers. Yet Joe Biden has no plan. He's got absolutely no plan. He doesn't even know what the word inflation means.
No, and he'll tell you it's about the messaging. We're doing great. We just got to get the message out. He doesn't tell you himself, though. He has to tell you through surrogates because Joe can't string together more than 2 sentences. We got more audio from Donald Trump in Detroit on the way. Anything you want to talk about, the number is 615-737-9986. Whether you want to call or text, hang out with us. It's the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand here talking about my friends at the Glock store. And if you've ever visited the Glock store, well, they're likely your friends too, because the staff at the Glock store is the best. And if you haven't visited the Glock store, you really should. Especially if you have any interest whatsoever in Glock handguns and Glock performance parts. I mean, obviously, there's a reason they call it the Glock store. If it has anything to do with Glock, anything whatsoever, you can bet it's on the shelf at the Glock store. And if it's not there, it's most likely in the warehouse about to be brought out. They get all the latest stuff. So when it comes to performance parts for your own Glock, go to the source, the Glock store, where your performance parts are installed for free while you wait. And of course, they have incomparable Shoot 270 indoor shooting ranges. Not a lane range. They don't do that kind of nonsense at the Glock store. They do private shooting rooms with just you and a skilled, qualified instructor. When I went to the Shoot 270 rooms, I had my training with Kevin, who's fantastic, but I would recommend any of the staff at the Glock store because I've been to a lot of other gun stores and a lot of them with indoor ranges. But once I found the Glock store, I knew that I was home and I'd found my favorite place to buy and train, but honestly, especially to train. That's the Glock store. Airline Drive, just off of Elm Hill Pike and Briley Parkway. The Glock store and GlockStore.com, just minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere.
Got some road work slowing things down on the on-ramp 24 eastbound from Spring Street, Ellington Parkway. That on-ramp is blocked there here in downtown Nashville. Firefighters dispatched to the home of one of country music's biggest stars overnight. We'll tell you about that at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 9:28 on Super Talk. My name is Chris Hand. Mary in Woodbury was also in Detroit this weekend. What's up, Mary? Yep.
Think he's a fantastic boss. They feel they're treated with respect. All of this liberal media nonsense about Trump and women, they say if you work for him, you will get the completely opposite impression. They all loved him. She then switched from working as a member of the speechwriting team to working for Turning Point. She's a wonderful person.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think the majority of Trump employees, male and female, feel that way, that they love the guy.
Yes. Well, if you are a smart, ambitious person and you want to work in a meritocracy, that is what Trump is all about.
Amen.
He doesn't care about the intersectionality and, what color your skin is and what sex you are, what your background is. He cares whether or not you can perform the job, and he rewards people who perform it really well.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Mary. I appreciate the call. I'm glad you had a good time in Detroit.
Yes, I did. All right. Have a great day.
All right, talk to you soon. We have more audio from Donald Trump in Detroit on the way after Ken Weaver's newscast, which starts right now.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Middle Tennessee, crews put out a fire at Carrie Underwood's home overnight. News 2 says fire started around 9:40 last night. The garage at that residence fully involved when crews made it up a long road, then a long driveway to the primary residence near Leapers Fork. And the nation's top doctor urging tobacco and alcohol-style warning labels on social media, citing mental health risks for young people. Elizabeth Schulze.
In an op-ed in the New York Times, Dr. Vivek Murthy writes, a Surgeon General's warning label, which requires congressional action, would regularly remind parents and adolescents that social media has not been proved safe. He says that similar labels that were put on tobacco products help dramatically reduce their usage.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. The heat is here. Is your AC working the way it needs to be working? I mean, by now, you know the answer to that question, right? If it's not working the way it needs to be working, maybe it's time to get it maintained the right way, the Busy Bee way with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, because you want it running at maximum peak efficiency. And if you haven't gotten it maintained for the season yet, you're essentially waiting for a problem to pop up this time of year. So be proactive and keep your unit in tip-top shape. And full disclosure, I wasn't proactive. I was ignoring the text messages that you get as a Beehive member saying it's time to maintain your unit. And then I had a problem pop up with my AC. I had dirty coils. Super embarrassing. But I called Busy Bee right away. They were at my home in less than an hour because I'm a Beehive member. I get that front of the line service, and they fixed my unit. And they said, hey, this could have been avoided if you had gotten your maintenance done on time. So don't be like me. Be much, much better than me. Get your maintenance done now and become a Beehive Club member. That'll cover your maintenance. It's actually only $99 to join the Beehive Club. And you get so much value. 3 annual tune-ups, 1 for your heating, 1 for your cooling, 1 for your plumbing, a 10% discount on all repairs. priority, front of the line service. That was huge for me and my family. And you get a $100 annual accrued replacement credit worth a maximum of $1,000. Plus, no overtime holiday or holiday fees and exclusive Beehive member promotions. It will pay for itself to become a member of the Beehive Club. Busy Bee's your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
9:38 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We had Debbie waiting on the line. She wanted to talk about the debate, but she hung up. So no Debbie. Debbie, if you're listening, call back because I wanted to hear what you were going to say. Debbie's a little bit nervous about the debate, which is 10 days away. 10 days away. The debate of the century. Joe Biden v. Donald Trump on CNN. Are you excited for that? I'm excited for that. I guess from what I gathered from Mason is that Debbie was a little bit nervous that Trump might look bad. Trump might look like a bully with Joe Biden. But I look at the debate rules, how they're going to be muting mics. I think that actually helps Trump to not look that way. I look at Donald Trump and how he's really honed his talking points these past few months, weeks, years. And I think if he focuses on the main points, he's going to be just fine. Oh, Debbie called back. Debbie, what's up? I was looking forward to talking to you.
Well, you probably said what I was going to say. I didn't mean to hang up on you. It just worries me that I'm afraid that Trump will come off as a bully on the debates because we know that, matching policy for policy, he's going to absolutely wipe the floor with Biden.
Well, I think that's where some of the CNN rules about mics being muted are actually going to help Trump and not hurt him.
Okay, well that's good. That's good because I don't, those of us with common sense know that Biden's ill, and I just think it would be really disrespectful and belittling to put him down as a person.
No, I know. I hear that. I think that if he focuses on the issues, which is what all the news reports are going to be, or are saying that he's going to do, I think he's going to be just fine. And I understand the talking and the getting heated, but with the mics being muted, I think that's really going to help him.
Oh, I do too, because he tends to forget what he's saying sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you, Debbie. I appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, if Trump focuses on the world and the country and the policies that Joe Biden has enacted to further drive that stuff down, then he's going to be just fine. If Trump can really echo what he echoed in Detroit over the weekend, he's going to really make some great points. Like when it comes to Zelensky in Ukraine. He nailed this in Detroit.
I think Zelensky is maybe the greatest salesman of any politician that's ever lived. Every time he comes to our country, he walks away with $60 billion. And I like him. On the impeachment hoax #1, he was very good. He said, no, the president didn't threaten me at all. He could have been a grandstander and said, I was threatened, right, Matt? He could have said, I was threatened. So I like him. But he's the greatest salesman of all time. He walks in. So now here's the beauty. He just left 4 days ago with $60 billion, and he gets home and he announces that he needs another $60 billion.
If Trump focuses on the amount of money that we're spending on foreign wars because of the weakness of Joe Biden and his regime, that's a win. If Trump focuses on the failures of Joe Biden, he's going to do just fine in this debate. Whether it's Zelensky in Ukraine or whether it's the wide open southern border.
The entire world is emptying out their prisons and jails, their insane asylums, their mental institution, and our country's being turned into a dumping ground, and the entire world is laughing at us. They say, how stupid are the leaders of America? And they are stupid. Earlier this week, ICE arrested not 1, not 2, but 8 suspected terrorists. They're pouring in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And we're going to pay a big price. We got to get them out fast. One of the first things I'm doing, we're getting them out fast.
And Biden knows that. The Democrats know that. That's why Biden is now trying to grant amnesty to a few 100,000 illegal aliens who are married to American citizens. They're trying to do that as quickly as they can. NBC reported on this.
And new this morning, multiple sources familiar with the White House's plans tell NBC News that President Biden is set to take executive action as early as Tuesday to protect hundreds of thousands of undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation.
Yeah, he wants to reward the illegal aliens who shouldn't be in this country already. just another Biden Democrat plan. Trump needs to hone in on that when it comes to the debate. Trump needs to focus on the fact that he puts illegal aliens before American citizens. And I think he will. I truly, truly think he will. And I think that's a recipe for winning. Because what can Biden say? How can he defend that? He can't. He can't because these people enter through Biden's border illegally.
According to reports, many of these terrorist savages entered through Joe Biden's open border, and Crooked Joe released them immediately into the United States. He set them loose to spread their terror network all across America. Under Biden, there has been this is, by the way, Border Patrol. This isn't me. Somebody would say, oh, that's Trump. This is Border Patrol. There has been a 3,000% increase in the number of people on the terror watch list crossing the southern border. 3,000%. 3,000%. The choice for every voter this November is clear. You can have a president who lets thousands of radical Islamic terrorists into our country, or you can have a president who throws radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country and gets them out fast.
And Trump here is talking specifically about the terrorists that were arrested in New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. But I think Americans just don't have the stomach for amnestying illegal aliens when we see what's happening every single day. We need to focus on American problems. We need to focus on our wide open southern border. Joe Biden's not that guy. Joe Biden is not that guy. Larry in Clarksville wants to talk about the economy. What's up, Larry?
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking my call. Hold on one second. Crackhead, I am on the phone. I'm on the phone. All right. He's a little bit slow about that. Of course, he's blonde.
I didn't know you were friends with Hunter Biden. I didn't know.
But my yellow lab is a crackhead. But
all right.
I still love him. He's my crackhead. Chris, I served under Carter and Reagan. And had I been old enough to vote for Carter when he was running for his first election, I would have, because I was brought up to be a Democrat. And then I saw, I served and saw the difference in the darn economy. And I bought my first house out in Bellevue. My interest rate was at 15.5%, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember under Carter, the gas lines, and you could only buy gas on every other day, depending on what letter your last name started with. And, now I'm living on disability, and my grocery prices have gone up darn near 40%. My dog food's gone up 38%.
I mean, this is what Trump needs to. This is what Trump needs to focus on in the debate. 100%.
Exactly.
100%.
And I'm not, I'm not going to sacrifice my dog's food over my food. I'm going to make sure they're fed first. And it's not their fault that Joe Biden is such a POS. They didn't vote for him.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I appreciate the call, Larry. Here's the thing about the economy, too, is prices aren't going to be coming down anytime soon. Even CNN is admitting that in their reporting.
I don't have good news for you this year. The expectation is that we see food prices continue to rise this year, Jake, by just over 2%. That's on top of a sort of near 6% rise last year. So it's pretty mind-blowing, quite frankly, for consumers. But you're right to break it down into grocery prices and then what we're seeing at the worst end of this, which is fast food restaurants. Those prices for grocery are up around 1% over the past year. Fast food restaurants are up over 4%, and we're seeing all sorts of complaints from the likes of McDonald's, Starbucks, Burger King on social media, where consumers are saying, quite frankly, we've had enough.
I mean, you focus on the economy, what can Joe Biden say? You focus on the wide open southern border, what can Joe Biden say? What can he say? I think Trump is going to mop the floor with them at the debate. I hope that Trump is calm, smooth, and prepared. Because we need to deal with this. We need to win this debate. Because of the last debate, for better or worse, the media was able to paint Trump as unhinged. But Trump was rightfully angry because of the last debate. They said the Russian laptop was disinfo. The Hunter laptop was Russian disinfo. They had the letter from 51 former intelligence agents. Biden leaned on that. I hope that gets brought up again. It got brought up in Detroit.
It's no wonder Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us. They know that we are the only ones who can stop them, and they know it. And it was just announced that they withdrew their lawsuit, the laptop from hell lawsuit, right? The fake. Remember where they said it was Russian disinformation? It wasn't. They withdrew their lawsuit against the greatest mayor in the history of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, which accused him of everything under the sun regarding the laptop from hell. They withdrew it on the basis that everything that he said was true. For years, he's been fighting for himself. Everything Rudy Giuliani said was true. It was not from Russia. It had nothing to do with Russia. It only had to do with Hunter. Think of that. They try and destroy people.
They do, and they've tried to destroy Trump every step of the way this campaign. Every step of the way. I got more audio from Trump in Detroit. Plus, I have audio about from the Democrats. Biden campaign spokeswoman Adrienne Elrod. She's calling the meander-in-chief disinformation by Republicans. When he's wandering around at the G7 in Italy, she said that was disinfo. Did she watch the video, or did she just receive her talking points? Because when you listen to UK reporters talking about the same incident, they essentially say Biden was a step slow at the G7. I got all that and more on the way. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Still got that traffic problem downtown. It is the 24 eastbound on-ramp from Spring Street, Ellington Parkway. That ramp is blocked for road work. Then in Rutherford County, stop-and-go traffic for some reason, about a 7-minute delay. This is going to be 24 westbound between Epps Mill Road and Church Street. That's exits 89 and 81. A fatal hit and run in Middle Tennessee, and the U.S. Surgeon General recommending another warning label like the ones for tobacco and alcohol, coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 9:58 on Super Talk. My name is Chris Hand. Got a text here from 3457. We kind of been talking about the debate and how Trump will react and all these things. 3457 had a great text. The only questions they will be asking Trump is, does he think the last election was stolen, and about his conviction. They will take him down the rabbit hole. I do wonder about the conviction. You know, being bound by the gag order, how does that affect his answers? Or is he just going to say, gag order be damned? And as far as, does he think the last election's stolen? If they ask him that, I don't think he's going to approach it with any fear. He definitely didn't have any fear about it in Detroit.
The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024.
I mean, it was absolutely electric while he was speaking in Detroit. Now, they're going to ask him about it, right? He's going to be prepared. Is he going to bring receipts? Is he going to talk about big tech? Is he going to talk about rule changes in a state like Pennsylvania that weren't approved by the legislature? I hope he brings all the receipts. I think that they're going to be prepped for that. I think they're going to be 100% ready for that. If anybody's ready for this, it's going to be Trump. He had a lot more to say during Detroit. One of the things he promised, which I thought was on point in America First, was an iron dome like Israel.
Biden's weakness and failure are putting us in grave danger. As president, I will restore peace through strength. In my next term, we will build a great iron dome over our country like Israel has. A dome like has never been seen before, a state-of-the-art missile defense shield that will be entirely built in America and create jobs, jobs, jobs. It will be the greatest dome anywhere in the world.
I think that these promises are going to mean a lot to the American people because they're promises for American citizens. Let's get back to putting America first. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, the search is on for a fatal hit-and-run crash suspect. Happened last night right before 8 o'clock on Peachers Mill Road in Clarksville. The driver of a car died after it hit a pole. Witnesses said a red Ford Fusion was involved in that crash but kept on going. That car may have damage to its rear section, and police want to know if you see it. Well, the nation's top doctor, Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy, urging tobacco and alcohol-style warning labels on social media. Details from Elizabeth Schulze in Washington.
Murthy is pointing to data that shows teens who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of anxiety or depression. The average user that age was on social media for almost 5 hours a day.
Such warning labels require congressional action. Big marijuana news in Maryland. Maryland Democratic Governor Wes Moore today issuing more than 175,000 pardons for simple possession and paraphernalia convictions.
We cannot celebrate the benefits of legalization if we do not address the consequences of criminalization.
Maryland legalized recreational cannabis in 2023. And back here in Middle Tennessee, firefighters are investigating after crews put out a fire at Carrie Underwood's home in Williamson County last night. News 2 says firefighters found a fully involved fire at the property's garage around 9:40. They say firefighters were at the scene for several hours because hot spots kept reigniting in the walls. Now, there's no damage to the primary residence, no injuries to the family who was home at the time. Officials say they think that fire may have been sparked by a UTV parked next to the garage. And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
10:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Don't forget, you can take us with you wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app. If you miss a little bit of the show, you want to share it with your friends, podcasts are available on Apple and Spotify. And you can find me on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. That's at Chris Hand on Air. So the Biden administration has been running damage control for Joe and the G7, the head bump with the Pope, the wandering away from other world leaders, and they're calling it Russian disinfo. No, not Russian disinfo, sorry, Republican disinfo. It's just interchangeable. No, it's always one or the other, right? It's either the Russians did it or the Republicans did it, or the Republicans are working for the Russians to do it. So it's easy to confuse. Sorry. So the Biden campaign, they sent out their spokeswoman, Adrienne Elrod, and she wanted to talk about that incident at the G7 where Biden wandered away from the world leaders and looked lost. It did look like he was looking at another paratrooper, giving him a thumbs up, but he does like awkwardly just wander away from the group. And they wanted to make sure that everyone knows this is Republican disinformation.
Disinformation is alive and well. We have to use surrogates and voices across the country to combat this and make it clear that not only do we not play this game, but to your point, President Biden was out there literally representing America at the G7, saluting our troops, doing what he does as President of the United States.
I love how she says, we have to combat this disinfo with surrogates. Because obviously Joe Biden can't combat disinfo himself because he can't speak. And I also love how she says, we're not going to play this game, but that's exactly what you guys do. Do we need to go back to the Very Fine People hoax? Do we need to go back to the bloodbath hoax? Do we need to go back to the animals hoax? That's exactly what the Democrats do, and she's projecting that on Republicans. You can all look at that video and understand that Joe Biden is not well. He is a step slow. As one super texter said a while ago, he actually aspires to be a step slow. That's how bad he looks. And so they get on CNN and they gaslight us.
And look, we're going to see more of this. I mean, this is just the reality of campaigning in 2024. So we have to combat that disinformation. We have to hit it hard when it happens and make it clear that these are dirty tactics that MAGA Republicans are using because they can't run on the issues, Lemire. They have to use these dirty tactics like this because they are not right with Americans on the issues.
We can't run on the issues. Republicans can't run on the issues. In an economy that's failing, in a world that's falling apart, a wide open southern border, we can't run on the issues. We can't. The gaslighting from the Democrats is insane. This woman is insane. I wonder if the paycheck is worth it. Honestly, is the paycheck worth it to go out there and lie to the American people and sell out the country? Is that worth it? Is it worth gaining the world to sell your soul?
So we're going to see more of this. We're going to do what we can to combat it. But it does take the voices of surrogates across the country. Again, surrogates, because Biden can't combat this himself because he's slow. It does take the media to call it out.
Oh, the media has to call it out.
It does take social media platforms where a lot of Americans are getting their information to point it out as well.
And social media needs to point it out as well. It's funny, I posted the meander in chief with the paratrooper thing on my Instagram story, and I got fact checked. Missing context. Okay. What about how slowly he picked up his sunglasses to put on his face? He looks like an old man with dementia. He speaks like an old man with dementia. And as the Biden campaign goes out there to defend the meander in chief during his G7 flub, just days later, they have another flub with Obama on stage at their star-studded celebrity fundraiser, where Obama has to grab him by the wrist and lead him off stage. Is that also disinformation? Is that also disinformation? You know, there were other reporters besides American media at the G7. And the way they covered it was much more honest than Biden campaign spokeswoman Adrienne Elrod.
Also, last night, awkward moment with President Biden where he was looking very doddery. He was wandering around. He sort of wandered off, and Giorgia Meloni, the Italian premier, had to sort of guide him back to the crowd. It was quite painful viewing. Everyone's putting a slight brave face on it this morning. We've got some more for that for the paper tomorrow. But yeah, you can see from that footage yourself. It's this is getting embarrassing now.
You can see from the footage yourself, it's getting embarrassing now. See, this is the thing that the Democrats don't understand. It doesn't matter what you say. We saw the video. We saw it. We saw it ourselves. You can tell us it's disinformation, but the Republicans didn't produce a video and put it on the internet. That was reporters from the crowd.
And you do really wonder how President Biden is going to be able to run an election campaign in October and November for re-election. And if he won, is that a man you really think is going to get through the next 4 years?
Nope.
I mean, you're right. It was absolutely painful to watch, and that clip's going viral currently on social media. Obviously, Donald Trump and the Republicans really looking to ham it up. I mean, what was going on? I mean, obviously, most G7 summits are diplomatic sprints. You expect to see the President of the United States, as other world leaders, doing a flurry of meetings. Has he been doing the same thing?
No, he ducked out of the dinner last night, and frankly, Jack, I'm gonna ruin my story for the paper tomorrow by telling it to never mind the ballots. But my sources, diplomatic sources here, people I've been speaking to, say it's the worst they've ever seen Joe Biden.
Is that also Russian Republican disinformation? When the UK's reporters are saying it's the worst they've ever seen Joe Biden? Is that guy a Republican plant? I don't think so.
Wow. And he's in a bad way, and he's losing focus in meetings. Sometimes he's very sharp, sometimes he's very much not. So some worrying developments there.
Worrying developments indeed. It wasn't just the UK. There were Italian papers reporting on videos of Joe Biden's declining health and rigid movements. Italy's largest paper reported on the incident involving Joe at the G7, where he was wandering away from the crowd, the video that went viral. And they're saying doubts about the age of the president, an 81-year-old man subjected to exhausting rhythms between international commitments and election campaigning, are not new to Americans. They also say in a rare interview given to Time magazine last month, the author notes following the president into the Oval Office that his stiff gait, muffled voice, erratic syntax clashes with the intense talkative appearance from when he was a senator or vice president. You can look at the videos of Joe from back in the day. You look at the videos of Joe now. It's not the same guy. It's not. Italy covered Joe Biden. The headline read, "Long pauses, eyes closed, weak voice, Biden and new doubts about health at the G7." The world thinks Joe Biden is a joke. American citizens think Joe Biden is a joke. And Democrat surrogates and campaign spokespeople say this is Republican disinformation. One headline said, "In Joe motion." Are you kidding? In Joe motion, Daughtery Biden is the worst he's ever been. Everyone is worried, say G7 insiders, as vid shows him shuffling away and freezing again. The Democrats say it's Republican disinformation. But the same thing happened days later at his star-studded fundraiser. Is that Republican disinformation? When Barack Obama has to grab him by the wrist like a toddler and lead him off stage. If you haven't seen that video, it's on my Twitter, @ChrisHandOnAir. The thing about it is Obama could have done it so much smoother where it wouldn't have looked that bad. But I think Obama is just frustrated with Joe wandering off and getting lost. And the star-studded fundraiser revealed it raised $28 million. The Biden campaign revealed it raised $28 million ahead of that fundraiser, which George Clooney and Julia Roberts and Jack Black, that happened on Saturday. Biden didn't look good there, and they're still raising money. This is something to pay attention to. They do have a lot of money, and they are using this money. When I was in Michigan over the weekend for the People's Convention, the Trump rally, I put on the TV. I'm watching local news while I'm there. because I'm just like a local news junkie. Any market I'm in, I do want to watch the local news and like check the temperature. But I'm seeing ad after ad of Joe Biden. Ad after ad. The Republicans won't tell you Joe Biden's successes, but we will. Go to this website. They're using this money in swing states. We don't see it as much here in Tennessee, but this kind of fundraising haul does make a difference. And they raised a lot of money again during that fundraiser. You know, Jimmy Kimmel said that America might need an exorcism at that fundraiser. Jimmy Kimmel did, which is funny because I don't know. On our side, we've been saying that the world is run by Satanists for a while, and Jimmy Kimmel seems to admit it. Yeah, America needs an exorcism. But I will say this. Before that fundraiser, there was a street artist that was mocking Joe Biden all over California. Did you see any of this? They were essentially going to, you know, like the billboards that are on the bus stops, like built into the bus stop kind of waiting area or built into park benches. This guy went around and essentially made new ad inserts for all of these bus stations and sidewalk benches. And they were absolutely hilarious. There's a picture of George Clooney in his, ER? George Clooney when he was in ER in his hospital scrubs, and it says Trump derangement syndrome. It's real and many suffer, but there's help. And then there's a phone number. They're putting these ads all over LA as they head into the weekend for that fundraiser. Hilarious. If you missed some of those, you can find them on my Twitter as well. At Chris Hand on Air. I retweeted a couple of them. But people are mocking him. We have to mock him. And they'll say, but no, nobody talks about his accomplishments. No, you know, the Republicans are focused on disinformation. We need to get the message out about his accomplishments. Okay. Biden had $42.5 billion set aside for his infrastructure bill for high-speed internet. Okay? These are the accomplishments of Biden. They set aside $42.5 billion in funding from the so-called bipartisan infrastructure bill to connect Americans with high-speed internet. Do you know how many people they've connected with high-speed internet from that $42.5 billion? Zero. In 2021, they've set aside that $42.5 billion from Congress to deploy high-speed internet to millions of Americans. Years later, it has not connected even one person with those funds. In fact, it now says that no construction projects will even start until 2025 at the earliest. At the earliest. Brought to you by the same people who set aside billions for EV charging stations and haven't built one. This is what they're doing with your tax dollars. They can say that we need to focus on the successes of Biden and their commercials, but really, the failures overshadow all of the successes. All of them. The failures overshadow everything. Because every single time, it's failure after failure after failure. And they spend money on woke stuff. They spend a lot of money on indoctrinating your kids in schools. And they fund these schools with your tax dollars. Trump and Detroit promised to cut the funding for schools involved in woke stuff. And it was quite the scene.
Day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children.
Amen. It's about time.
And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And I will keep men out of women's sports. And I will fully uphold our great Second Amendment. NRA endorsed me, gave me their full endorsement. Thank you to the NRA. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore a thing called free speech. It's being taken away from us by these radical thugs.
So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this speech live in Detroit, okay? And the thought that crosses my mind when Trump is making these promises and the entire crowd is like, damn right, is imagine if back in the 80s, these were the promises that Reagan made. You would have thought he was insane. I'll keep men out of women's sports. Like, why would you need to make that promise? The Democrats have taken this country so far left, we have to take it back. We have to. And we're going to have a chance to in November. Lord willing. It's 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. You know Paul, I know Paul. You know, I'm still sort of new to WTN, right? I've been here less than a year. But I like you, I was listening to Paul Winkler's radio show for years. He's been hosting the Investor Coaching Show for over 2 decades. We run it every Saturday from 3 to 6. And when I was a listener, I would listen and I would learn from Paul. And when I got my show here, it was just like a no-brainer. My wife and I both were like, we got to link up with Paul because we've been learning from him for so many years before I had my show here. And it's because Paul's a smart guy, and you can just tell when you listen to him. But you may know he has a show, but you may not know that he started that show after he spent time studying under an economist who went on to win a Nobel Prize. That's Paul's background. That's his history. That's pretty cool. He's also an avid collector of financial planning designations. He has up to 8 now. So, of course, my wife and I work with Paul. It was so easy when I came on board. His was the firm I wanted to work with, and here's why. They hold themselves to the highest level of fiduciary status. Because of that, Paul wants to make sure that I'm honest with you, I'm transparent with you, and I tell you right away, I get paid when I do these commercials. Where else do you hear that? Paul wants to start the relationship off with you on the right foot with honesty and transparency. But I don't get paid to be a client. I chose to be a client. And it's because of things like his team doing nothing on commission. That's huge to me. It's because of the education they provide. Also huge. I was financially illiterate before I started working with Paul. But they'll educate you every step of the way. Whether you're financially illiterate or you know what you're talking about, Paul and his team can help you. And they'll walk you through every step, every decision, so you never get that uneasy feeling of blind trust. That's huge. And they'll look at your whole financial picture before they help you make decisions, because your financial picture is going to be unique to you. Set up a 15-minute phone call today. You're not going to be disappointed. And that 15-minute phone call will start that ball rolling downhill. Just go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
All right, road work causing a slowdown downtown. It has the 24 eastbound on-ramp from Spring Street and Ellington Parkway closed. Got a fatal hit-and-run suspect on the run from Middle Tennessee. New warning labels recommended by the Surgeon General. Firefighters put out flames at the property of one of country music's biggest stars, and hundreds of thousands of low-level marijuana convictions pardoned at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ooh, you got a busy newscast coming up, Ken. It sounds like a doozy.
I got to catch my breath.
I'm ready for it. Joe Biden also needs to catch his breath. He can't defend himself, so he sends his wife out to do it for him.
This election is most certainly not about age. Joe and that other guy are essentially the same age. Let's not be fooled. Joe isn't one of the most effective presidents of our lives in spite of his age, but because of it.
Oh, okay. Did you guys catch that? He's not one of the most effective presidents of our lifetime because, in spite of his age. It's because of his age. He's a wise old man. Very wise. I've said this a couple times, and every time I hear her speak, I believe it a little bit more. Jill Biden may be the most evil woman in America, and I don't think she loves her husband. If you loved your husband, you'd bring him home to your beach home in Delaware. You'd bring him to your vacation properties and in St. Croix, and you would live out the rest of your days enjoying your time with your grandkids. But what she's doing to her husband by not getting him out of there, she's accelerating the end of his life. 100%. And she's doing it because she loves to be first lady. Joe's the most effective, not in spite of his age, but because of his age. Okay. Although maybe she feels like millions of Americans, and she realizes who's next in line, and that scares the hell out of her too.
You must have and know that you are applauded for having the ability to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
That was Kamala Harris over the weekend saying the line again. Ugh. I don't know if Democrats, I know the talk is like, we got to replace Joe in Democrat circles, but the big problem is Kamala Harris, right? Because with the left's ideology, if you were to put in someone like a Gavin Newsom and you skip over the black woman, well, that would be detrimental. But this is the woman that they have waiting in line behind Joe Biden.
So the importance of community banks is they are, as they are called, they're in the community.
Oh.
Led by members of the community.
Okay.
They are people who understand the capacity of the community, the needs of the community, the culture of the community.
She said community 7 times, talking about community banks in an 18-second clip. Like, what? They can't replace Joe with Kamala. They can't. And I know somebody somewhere is trying to convince Michelle Obama right now, please get into the race.
They just can't locate her in the community.
They can't. Maybe they should check with community members who know the community. Because that's the only way you can get around skipping over the black woman with the left. If they were to replace Joe with Gavin Newsom, it'd be like, oh, another white man. So that's how the left works. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Middle Tennessee, authorities say they're looking for a red Ford Fusion, which witnesses say was involved in a fatal crash last night in Clarksville. Witnesses say this vehicle kept going after the driver of another vehicle died after slamming into a pole on Peachers Mill Road. Citing higher rates of anxiety and depression in teens, the nation's Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, is recommending warning labels on social media platforms, like the ones for tobacco and alcohol. And back here in Middle Tennessee, News 2 says firefighters put out a fire at country music star Carrie Underwood's property near Leapers Fork last night. Flames were contained to a garage. Officials think the fire may have been sparked by a vehicle parked nearby. Maryland Democratic Governor Wes Moore today issuing more than 175,000 pardons for low-level marijuana convictions, saying the state owes it to those convicted for behavior that isn't illegal anymore. Maryland legalized recreational cannabis in 2023. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
States that have long been Democrat states, because they may be turning into swing states. That's what we're seeing this morning. We've got less than 2 weeks before the big debate. The election is all that anyone's talking about, and most people understand Trump is winning right now.
That's Maria Bartiromo over the weekend on Fox News. We are 10 days away from the debate. Are you hype? I'm hype. I can't wait. Literally cannot wait. And she points out, in swing states, they're looking like they're leaning towards Trump. Well, it's because the issues favor Trump. There's two main issues that people really care about right now: the economy and the border. Everything else is just noise. The Democrats want to make it about emotional issues. They want to make it about abortion. They want to make it about gun control. They want to make it about Trump. But the reality is, it's about the border. It's about the economy. And Joe Biden slow walking us into World War III. And when it comes to the border, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse for the resident in chief. I know Dan was talking about this earlier this morning, but this story boils my blood. Police have arrested and charged an illegal alien from El Salvador, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, in connection with the killing and rape of Rachel Marin, a mother of 5 from Maryland, who was found dead on a hiking trail last August. This is the reality under Joe Biden. This is the reality of Joe Biden's border policies. He was arrested in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This isn't the first time that this man has been involved in legal trouble. He fled El Salvador because of those same kinds of crimes. He's accused of assaulting a mother and a 9-year-old daughter in Los Angeles before he went on to kill Rachel Marin and rape her, a mother of 5 in Maryland. This is why we need a strong leader in the White House. Because while this is happening, Joe Biden is debating executive orders for amnesty of illegal aliens married to American citizens. No amnesty deals should be done until our border is secure. And if it was up to me, no amnesty deals would be done. If you snuck into the country illegally, you should be barred from being able to stay here. You can't become an American citizen if your first action is breaking our laws. But that's what Joe Biden wants to do. He wants to grant amnesty. He wants new voters. He wants stories like Rachel Marin's to go away. But these stories don't go away. They only get replaced by new stories with new names and more victims because of Joe Biden's wide open southern border. In a press conference, law enforcement announced the arrest of this illegal alien for the suspected murder and rape of Rachel Marin. He was arrested in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The sheriff, Jeffrey Goller, he hit the mic and he broke down the crime. And it's horrifying and it's disgusting.
Just before midnight our time, police in Tulsa, Oklahoma, assisted by our federal partners, located and arrested Rachel's murderer, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. So far, we have learned that the suspect, now pictured on the screens, is a 23-year-old citizen of El Salvador who illegally crossed the border into the United States in February of 2023. We all suspected that perhaps Rachel was not his first victim. And it's my understanding that this suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month early in January of 2023. Once in our country, and likely emboldened by his anonymity, he brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. And as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case. It has been a fear of mine that once we identified this suspect, the result would be exactly this.
It's dark, but it's the reality of a wide open southern border. And I think the thing that pisses me off the most about our wide open southern border is we have the manpower, we have the resources, we have the laws on the books to stop this stuff now. But we don't. We don't stop it. We blame Republicans, if you're a Democrat, for not coming to a bipartisan agreement, when really the Democrats made this problem far worse. Joe Biden made this problem far worse when he effectively ended every Trump policy that was working on the southern border. When he sued Arizona, the Biden administration did, when they were putting up the shipping container wall. When they sued Texas over buoys. When they sued Texas over razor wire. When they sue states for saying that local law enforcement can arrest illegal aliens for the crime of entering the country illegally. The Biden administration puts illegal aliens first. And the sheriff, Jeffrey Gahler, he tells reporters, because of the Rachel Marin murder and rape, this poor mother of five kids who no longer have their mother, he tells reporters that he has a message for everyone in the White House and in D.C.
And I want to now direct these comments to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and to every member in both chambers of Congress. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies. This is the second time in just 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally. Let me repeat that. 1,800 miles from the southern border, and this is the second woman in our county to be killed by an illegal alien. Suspects, in both cases, they are suspects from El Salvador with ties to criminal gangs. Should not be happening. Victor Hernandez did not come here to make a better life for himself or for his family.
Yep.
He came here to escape the crime he committed in El Salvador. He came here and murdered Rachel, and God willing, no one else. But that should have never been allowed to happen.
No, it should have never been allowed to happen. I love that the sheriff calls it out, because that's always the left's talking points. Well, they're fleeing persecution. Yeah, well, he was. This gentleman was fleeing persecution for a murder he committed in El Salvador. But the talking points are they're looking for a better life. This gentleman wasn't looking for a better life. This is an animal and a monster. And the crimes he committed left 5 kids without a mom. People understand what's going on. And they can say, well, Trump says mean things. Trump's a convicted felon. You know what? People weren't being murdered and raped by illegal aliens 1,800 miles away from the border under Trump. These stories weren't an everyday occurrence under Trump, but they are under Biden. And Americans are taking note. Americans feel less safe under Joe Biden than they did under Trump. And many, I mean, even prominent Democrats are recognizing this. Bill Maher on his show over the weekend said immigration is going to get the Democrats effed on Election Day. That's what Bill Maher said. Because he understands what's going on. And according to the HBO host, he says a pattern has emerged in Europe that he blamed on unfettered immigration. Maher said the pattern would repeat itself in the United States. He said, by reviving Trump's asylum ban, Biden has undermined American values, he said. And then they all stand back and go, we don't want to be called racist. So we will not make it a move onto immigration. It's going to get them effed on Election Day. It's happening. Yep. People are waking up. People understand that Joe Biden is not putting American citizens first. And every day, we get more and more stories. Tons and tons of fentanyl and meth were seized at the California border in May. 11,000 pounds of methamphetamines in May. That's a single smuggling attempt. It's crazy. It's killing Americans. And illegal aliens are killing Americans. And the scariest part is we're waiting for something even bigger to happen. When terror suspects are getting into this country, we're waiting for something much larger than the murder of a mother of 5. As tragic and horrific as it is, I think we can all understand that there's even greater danger because of the wide open southern border. And still, to this day, illegal aliens are not being properly vetted. This is according to Fox News at the border sector in San Diego.
Within the past few days, we had a Border Patrol agent tell us point blank on the ground that migrants crossing into the San Diego sector right now are not being properly vetted.
This is days after 8 suspected terrorists were arrested in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and New York.
And now a concerning new report from the Homeland Security Inspector General writes that vetting needs serious improvements or else it will continue to fail. That report writing in part, DHS will remain at risk of admitting dangerous persons into the country or enabling asylum seekers who may pose significant threats to public safety and national security.
We're all waiting for something bigger, which is the scariest part about this entire southern border situation. A former FBI agent and Twin Towers first responder spoke with DailyMail.com, and he says that the threat we're facing is unlike anything we've ever seen before. This guy is a 25-year counterterror veteran, and he revealed that illegal aliens and terrorists are going to come through the southern border and would likely use guns and bombs. Guns and bombs. Brian Stern, he's a veteran who founded the Gray Bull Rescue Foundation, and Chris Swecker, former FBI Assistant Director of the Criminal Investigation Division, say the threat of a 9/11 2.0 is even higher after multiple ISIS-affiliated operatives were arrested in the U.S. interior this week. You know the story. 8 Tajikistan nationals crossed through the southern border, were screened, passed security checks, and were released into the country before having to be arrested by ICE after the FBI tipped off the officers to the migrants' ties to ISIS. We're waiting for something bigger. And the border is still so wide open that in San Diego, people are just casually walking around the end of the wall.
Every day we are seeing small, medium, large groups of migrants illegally cross right here. And what they are doing is just walking around the end of this wall right here. They're doing it easily with little to no deterrence. This week we have seen migrants coming from Yemen, Nepal, China, Iran, and Mauritania. Yesterday morning before sunrise, there was a group of about 60 single men, adult males.
Weird.
I spoke to one Chinese migrant. He didn't want his face on camera because he says he fears the CCP and because he's the first of his family to enter the U.S. That Chinese migrant told us it cost him $15,000 to be illegally smuggled into the United States. How many days did it take you to get here?
About more than 20 days.
20 days?
Yeah.
Did you take an airplane? What was your path?
London and Mexico City, Tijuana, and here.
London to Mexico City to Tijuana to here, $15,000. I mean, that's a good ROI, because then when you get into the country, because of Joe Biden's administration, you're going to get all sorts of benefits: a free plane ride wherever you want to go, a nice hotel room to stay in, free food, debit cards, all the things, right? But we're waiting for something larger because of this border. These security experts that were interviewed by Daily Mail, they say they're sounding the alarm on how serious the failure was with the 8 terror suspects that were arrested, and reveal how easy it is for bad guys to infiltrate America. They're quoted saying a bunch of bad guys who are known bad guys were caught by law enforcement on the border. That's bad. Then they were run through checks, came back clean, and were let go. And then had to be re-caught because they were loose on the streets of America. That demonstrates that, at least in this case, the lessons of 9/11 weren't learned. You would think we would have a really good understanding of how to intercept bad guys and what to do with them once they're caught, so that they're not allowed entry into the United States. And he noted the trillions of dollars that have been funneled to counterterrorism efforts, including the growth of the intelligence community and the birth of the Department of Homeland Security following 9/11. And for what? Terror suspects can just walk across. Frank, who's on the road? You're real quick, Frank. What do you got?
Yeah, these illegal aliens, they do not have constitutional rights when they cross our border. Why in God's green earth they're being coddled?
It's because of feelings, Frank. We don't want to hurt any feelings.
Well, I'm sure the lady up in Maryland, her feelings are pretty much done with.
Yeah, and think about her family and 5 kids that don't have a mom anymore. But don't say anything. But don't say anything mean about these undocumented newcomers. Otherwise, you're a racist and a bigot, right?
Well, then I guess I'm a racist and a bigot.
I hear
Being
you.
Puerto Rican Irish, I must be a racist and a bigot.
I hear you, Frank. I do. Appreciate the call, man.
All right, have a good one.
You too. It's 10:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. You know the guys at USS. They're the best when it comes to waterproofing and foundation issues in your home. When USS comes to your house, you're going to get problem solvers who are going to bring peace of mind. You're not going to get somebody who's worried about meeting a sales quota or upselling you, but someone who's there to educate you and help you understand what's happening at your home. Because as homeowners, we'll see these little things and we're like, hopefully it's nothing. We don't want it to be something big, and it might not be. It might be something small that can be fixed quick. It might be something small that could turn into a big issue, but you're not going to know until you call USS. You want somebody that you can trust. You want somebody that's honest. That's United Structural Systems. So if you have some foundation repair or waterproofing work to be done, you're also going to get the peace of mind knowing that USS is going to provide an honest diagnosis and that they'll stand by their work and warranties. This is huge. USS is based right here in Middle Tennessee. They're members of our community, and they've been doing business for over 25 years. They're not going anywhere. This is who you want doing your repair work, and this is who you want to call if you ever need to use that warranty. This is the company that cares and the company that you can trust. They guarantee their best. And now they're offering mold treatment. Because when you get water in your crawl space, water in your basement, sometimes that is a byproduct of that water. And with the humidity we're having, maybe you're noticing musty smells in your house. Maybe you've noticed increased allergies and respiratory issues. That could be mold in your crawl space. Those mold spores will travel up into your home and into the air you breathe. But with USS, you can turn your crawl space into a healthy space with their complete microbial growth treatment. They don't just treat the mold. They treat any type of growth that could be eating away at your floor joists. If you have moisture in the crawl space, you probably have mold. USS offers what's called RTE solution, remove, treat, and cap. Because it does no good to remove the mold if you don't take the proper steps to prevent it from coming back. USS knows this. They've seen it time after time. They care about the customer, so they're going to provide a lasting solution with complete mold treatment services and a lifetime warranty. If you're having these problems, call USS today. USS, they guarantee their best. Call 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. Online at USSTN.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
11 o'clock on the dot this Monday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, News 2 says Metro Police are investigating after a man was shot in the head on Nolensville Pike, then dropped off at a hospital early yesterday morning. Happened around 1:30. 19-year-old Darwin Henriquez Perdomo was where witnesses told police a large group of vehicles were doing donuts and driving erratically when all of a sudden several shots rang out. Elsewhere in Middle Tennessee, authorities say a driver died after slamming into a pole along Peachers Mill Road in Clarksville last night. Police are looking for a red Ford Fusion with damage to the rear witnesses say was involved but kept going. And citing the risk of anxiety and depression among teenagers, the nation's Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, wants tobacco and alcohol style warning labels on social media platforms. Here's Elizabeth Schultze.
In an op-ed in the New York Times, Dr. Vivek Murthy writes, a Surgeon General's warning label, which requires congressional action, would regularly remind parents and adolescents that social media has not been proved safe. He says that similar labels that were put on tobacco products help dramatically reduce their usage.
Murthy citing data he says shows teenagers spending 3 hours a day or more on social media face double the rate of anxiety and depression, and the average time spent on social media is actually 5 hours a day. And Maryland Governor Wes Moore today issuing more than 175,000 pardons for low-level marijuana convictions, saying the state owes it to those convicted for behavior that isn't illegal anymore. Maryland legalized recreational cannabis in 2023.
Rolling out one of the best and most equitable legal markets in the country is incredibly important. But that rollout must go hand in hand with pardoning past conduct, and Maryland is going to lead by example.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
.05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram. They're all the same, at Chris Hand on air. I've been posting videos today on my Instagram and my Twitter account where you can see Obama grabbing Biden's wrist like a toddler and leading him off stage at his star-studded celebrity event. You can also see the picture. Did you see the picture of Chuck Schumer? Chuck Schumer was celebrating Father's Day, and he posted this weird photo where he's like, we lived in apartments my whole life. We've always lived in apartments. And now we live in a house, and I have a grill on Father's Day. It's a Father's Day dream. But if you look at the picture of the grill, he's putting cheese on raw hamburgers. Yeah, you heard me correctly. He's putting cheese on raw hamburgers. It doesn't even look like the grill is on. So he got ratioed to hell, and then he deleted the post because he was embarrassed about it.
He's playing like in a pretend kitchen like kids do growing up.
But he was so embarrassed he deleted it. So obviously I found it and shared it. So if you want to see that.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, if you want to see that, at Chris Hand on Air. We have to call these guys out for being idiots. We have to. And Trump has launched Black Americans for Trump Coalition. He was in Detroit over the weekend. He had a pastors roundtable in Detroit, and he's winning a lot of support in the black community. I love this clip of what one of the pastors said at the pastor roundtable to Trump about Obama never went to the hood. Biden never went to the hood. But Trump, he's meeting people where they're at.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Very humble, really nice. Thank you. My honor.
And people see this. They see Trump winning people over in the Bronx. They see Trump winning over people in Detroit. And the polls show this. President Trump has tripled support among black voters from 7% to 21%. That terrifies Democrats. It terrifies them. Black voters over 50, Biden dropped 9 points. Black voters under 50, Biden dropped 43 points. CNN, they're trying to wrap their heads around this, and I think that they're just as shocked as most of the Democrats are.
So where does the race stand among African-American voters right now?
Yeah, I keep looking for this to change, to go back to a historical norm, and it's simply put, has not yet. So this is the margin, or Biden and Trump among black voters, compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. At this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African-American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground, it's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now we're careening towards a historic performance for a Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
It's incredible. Because I made a point to talk to everyone that I could in Detroit. I talked to Muslims, I talked to African Americans, and the one thing that they all have in common is that they don't believe in Joe Biden, and they don't believe that he's doing things in the interest of America. Now, when you break it down and ask them what they feel about Trump, you get some mixed answers. The Muslims that I spoke with, they definitely don't like Biden. They weren't exactly sold on Trump. Full disclosure. I did my best. I'm talking to everybody I can, and I think that you should too, because we shouldn't take this election for granted. But among the African Americans I spoke to and the black guys I met, they love Trump. They love him. They're all in because they've seen decades of failed policy from Democrats, especially in Detroit, and they don't want it to continue.
When you dig into this number here, what is the makeup of that number?
This is where we get very interesting. So I decided to dive deeper into the crosstabs, figure out where is it that Joe Biden is truly struggling among black voters. All right, so this is black voters, Biden versus Trump margin. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now it's 74 points. So yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up by 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points. That lead has dropped by more than half, Mr. Berman. I just never seen anything like this. I'm like speechless, because you always look at history and you go, okay, this is a historic moment. If this polling is anywhere near correct, we are looking at a historic moment right now where black voters under the age of 50, which have historically been such a big part of the Democratic coalition, are leaving it in droves.
And they're leaving it in droves because they don't follow mainstream media. We have alternative news sources that people trust, and they're not buying the lies of the Democrat Party anymore. What has Joe Biden done for any of these communities that he's promised to do since he took office? Nothing. What he has done to the black community is he allowed in millions of illegal aliens and essentially replaced them. Now he's debating on more executive action to amnesty illegal aliens that are here, that are married to Americans, that broke into our country illegally, and allow them to become citizens. You're replacing your black voters in the Democrat Party with illegal aliens. The black community understands now more than ever that the Democrats don't care about them but once every 4 years.
That is a huge drop over a 4-year period, at least right now. All right, what's the impact of third-party candidacies here? Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, so obviously we have third-party candidates this year with the two major party candidates being so disliked. All right, so this is black voters, Biden versus Trump in the battleground states. This was according to a poll last month from the New York Times Siena College. Again, looks very similar to what we see nationally, right? Joe Biden at 63, a very poor position for a Democratic candidate. Donald Trump at 23%. If we add Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to this, look where Joe Biden drops to. Less than half the vote among black voters. Less than half the vote among black voters.
So when it's just Biden and Trump in a two-way, Biden has 63% of the black vote. Trump has 23%. When you add in RFK Jr., Biden goes down to 49% of the black vote. That's devastating. That is devastating for the Democrat Party. That's devastating in cities like Detroit, Philadelphia, New York. And Trump keeps meeting these people where they're at. He's going places where others don't. That's the beauty of Trump. He can go anywhere and speak to anyone. Joe can't do that. Joe can't even draw a crowd in deep blue Philadelphia. He filled up half a gymnasium in deep blue Philadelphia. But Trump will meet them where they're at. Trump goes into these communities with no fear. And he's got more planned. I've heard talks of Chicago, more in New York. He needs to go into every deep blue city and say it's time to change this. It's time to change it. And I think that they're going to believe him because he's telling the truth. He's telling the truth. Do you want record low unemployment and the illegal aliens who the Democrats are allowing to replace you to continue to flow in? Or do you want to come to the Republican side and give us a try? Because the Democrats aren't doing anything for these minority communities. Nothing. They're furthering the victim status. They're allowing more illegal aliens in. None of this is benefiting African American communities. None of it. And Trump speaks truth. People can recognize that. People understand that Joe Biden's pandering. People understand that Joe Biden's lying. But Trump will get in there and he'll tell you exactly what he's thinking. Good, bad, or ugly. That's what he did in Detroit. I was floored by his speech in Detroit. And one of the things he brought up in Detroit was replacing the people running our capital, replacing the people ruining our country. And Nancy Pelosi came up as well.
We will replace the people that are running our capital, who are running it into the ground, who, by the way, were offered 10,000 soldiers or National Guard on January 6th, along with Nancy Pelosi. Oh, did you see Nancy Pelosi? Her daughter's in trouble. Her daughter is a semi-professional photojournalist, as she calls herself. And she has Nancy on tape saying it was Nancy's responsibility to secure the Capitol. I hope the congressmen and women remember that little tape that was released 2 days ago, because the fake news doesn't want to talk about it very much. She took full responsibility for it. She's angry as hell at her daughter. She may cut her daughter off from all of the millions and millions of dollars that she scammed as a congressperson. Think of it. She has better returns on her money than the smartest people in the history of Wall Street. Look at that.
And there's so much truth in that statement, from the media manipulation of Nancy Pelosi's comments, how they're not covering it, to how much Nancy Pelosi makes in the stock market. Meanwhile, everyday Americans, their dollar is worth far, far less. And these things matter. Nancy Pelosi saying that she takes responsibility for January 6th matters.
They thought that they had sufficient resources. No, there's not a question of how they have. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility.
The media doesn't cover that, which is almost beautiful, because the internet works and people understand that the media is lying. This is why Trump's numbers are going up. We don't believe you guys anymore. We don't. We don't believe you at all. And in these communities, people don't believe Joe Biden is good for America.
What's going on with the open border? Biden better shut the border down, otherwise Donald Trump's going to take his seat.
Donald Trump's going to take his seat. It's the truth. It's the truth. When we were in Detroit, Byron Donald spoke, and there are all these signs in the crowd, signs saying, "Joe, you're fired," and one with the mugshot saying, "Never surrender." And that's how we have to move right now. Never surrender.
The sign I like says, "Joe Biden." I can't do it apprentice style. It just says, "Joe Biden, you're fired." Lower those for a moment. Now keep those other signs up. The other ones. Yo, hey, they know how to follow I like this crowd. They get it. The other sign that is up right now, and this is for all the people at home, says, "Never surrender." We are 5 months away from the most consequential presidential election in the history of this country. And what the voters of America are going to tell Joe Biden and the crazy Democrats is that you are fired, because America will never surrender.
I love it. This is what people want to hear. But the Biden campaign goes out there and they continue to gaslight. That's what they do. Top Biden advisor Mitch Landrieu, he said, you have a choice between two people.
You have a choice between two people. You have somebody like Joe Biden who wakes up every day. He's fighting hard for American citizens. He's working hard to lower prices. He's building 56,000 projects across the country. And in the meantime, you have another stark choice. One of the most dramatic, stark choices in the history of our country.
Yeah, a dramatic, stark choice. Joe Biden's getting up there every day. He's working for the American people. We don't believe you. We don't. We can point in any direction and find a Biden failure. The border, the economy. He says he's bringing jobs to your community. He's investing in your community, like the $42.5 billion from the infrastructure project from 2021 that was supposed to bring high-speed internet to millions of Americans, hasn't brought internet to one person, like the electric vehicle charging stations that they haven't built one of, despite billions of dollars of investment of your tax money. All Biden's campaign can do is gaslight. They can't address the border because under Biden, illegal aliens are raping and murdering American citizens. They can't talk about the economy because under Biden, your dollar goes far less than it did before. They can't talk about safety. They can't talk about any of this. So they have to try and demonize Trump. But people don't believe the media anymore. People understand what's at stake, and they understand that The Democrats are lying to you. They've been lying to you for a while. It's 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, a judge holding a hearing which could result in contempt of court charges over Covenant school shooter writings. A second reported leak coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
11:24 on Super Talk. Thanks, Ken. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. You know, a lot of times I see what's going on with Biden, and then I see headlines where they're talking about Trump with the same thing. And I think what they're trying to do is mess up the Google search results, right? To have Trump results pop up when you're searching for Biden, and it seems like MSNBC is going for that now. They're now claiming that Trump has severe memory issues on MSNBC. Yep, severe memory issues. I wish I was making this up. I really do.
The other thing that I think is really interesting, because I really got to know Donald Trump post-presidency, and I got to see what he was like. And over the weekend, he was talking about how Joe Biden needs to take a cognitive test. Joe Biden, isn't all there. Donald Trump had severe memory issues. As the journalist who spent the most time with him, I have to say he couldn't remember things. He couldn't even remember me. We spent an hour together in 2021 in May, and then a few months later, I went back to the White House. I went back to Trump Tower to talk to him about his time in the White House, and he had this vacant look on his face, and I said, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "No." He had no recollection of our lengthy interview that we had, and he was.
So he says that I was the reporter that spent the most time with him, and he couldn't remember things. He couldn't remember me, and then he said we spent an hour together. I wonder if this reporter for MSNBC is just a forgettable guy, and Trump really didn't care about him. His feelings were hurt. Trump has severe memory issues. I spent an hour with him, and then I saw him 2 years later, and he couldn't remember who I was. That's severe memory issues.
Wasn't doing a lot of interviews at that time. So I think that the American public really needs to see this portrait of Donald Trump, because this shows what he is like and who he is and who he has always been.
So now they're going to write an article about it, right? And they'll post that on MSNBC.com. And they'll say, Trump has worse memory issues than Joe Biden. So now if you Google memory issues with Joe Biden, this will be one of the search results. Do you see how that works? How that manipulation is there? This is what the left does. This is what the left does. They lie. Either outright or by omission. But they lie. This is what we're up against. And this is why it's going to be on all of us to go find those low information voters, people that don't pay attention because they're busy with work and family and life, and point out the record. Get them registered to vote. Like, it's an all hands on deck thing. We cannot take November for granted. We have to point them at the disastrous southern border. We have to point them to the disastrous economy because of Joe Biden. We have to highlight these things constantly because the media is constantly working against us. Although it doesn't seem to be working in certain areas, because when it comes to the youth, the media has already lost their trust, which is a good thing. But those older Americans, those vote blue no matter who, we have to have these conversations and say, guys, pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention, please. While Trump is out there rallying and meeting voters, meeting pastors, meeting firefighters, meeting police, Kamala Harris, she's in the White House. You know, she's the border czar, right? We just had an American mother of 5. We had an illegal alien arrested for murdering and raping her. Kamala Harris isn't out there meeting with her family. Kamala Harris is in the White House meeting with transgendered men with beards and dresses. That's this current White House's priority. We have to point that out to people. We have to. Because the media is not going to do it for us. They just won't. This was Kamala Harris over the weekend. Maybe you've seen this video floating around. It's on my Twitter, @ChrisHandOnAir, if you haven't. But she gets a knock on her door, and it's men with beards and dresses.
Hi. We talk.
That's how she's spending her time. The world around us is falling apart. The one person who's next in line to the president is spending her time with bearded men in dresses, not addressing the problems facing American citizens, not dealing with the border where she's the border czar, not trying to help with the economy. She's meeting with men in dresses. It's ridiculous. We have to show this to people. We have to point this out. We have to. It's going to be on us because the media is not going to do it for us. 615-737-9986 if you want to join the conversation via phone call or text message. And you can keep up with the show on TuneIn, iHeart. You can listen to us on those apps or find the podcast on Apple and Spotify. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got more heat and humidity on the way today that could spawn some rain showers with some thunder and lightning this afternoon. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Nashville, a judge is holding a hearing which could result in contempt of court charges against the Tennessee Star newspaper and its editor for a second leak of Covenant school shooter writings. The Star and editor Michael of the Tennessee Star newspaper and its editor Michael Leahy claimed to have at least 80 pages they say were leaked by a source close to the investigation, and they've been publishing the contents. Elsewhere in Nashville, police are investigating a shooting last night on Nolensville Pike. A 19-year-old shot in the head and dropped off at a hospital. This is after vehicles were doing donuts and driving erratically in a parking lot, and then someone started shooting. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
But what they've done is something even worse. They've turned the legal system. They've turned the legal system, whether it is bankruptcy, whether it is taking somebody's law license, whether it's debanking, and they have the greatest president this nation's had since Abraham Lincoln, and they're about to put him. By the way, on the 11th of July, they're going to sentence him for multiple years in prison. You understand that, right? You understand what they're doing in New York, and then they're going to limit how he can travel, how it's going to be court supervised. Why is that? To steal the election.
That was Steve Bannon, who was on fire over the weekend in Detroit at the People's Convention with Turning Point Action. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 1136. My name's Chris Hand. Steve says they're going to try and steal the election. They're going to put Trump in jail when they sentence him on July 11th. I don't know if I see jail. I think house arrest is definitely a real possibility. They don't want Trump on the campaign trail. And they understand that the lies from the media have not been hitting the same. They were hitting in 2020, but there's too much reality in the face of the American voters for this to work in 2024.
To steal the election. Under no circumstances can they have the Trump administration take back over. They can't have MAGA rule the country. They don't care about this election. They don't care how many votes we get. They're going to fight us every step of the way. Look, it's between now and November 5th. And what Charlie and the team here and you guys are going through these workshops and get out the vote and chase the ballots. And voter integrity is everything. But just winning in November is just the first step. Then from November 5th to the 6th, Jamie Raskin is going to try to steal the election on January 6th. They're already talking about right now, they're already going to say President Trump's an insurrectionist. And we will never certify an election of an insurrectionist. Raskin talks about it all the time. That's why we have to take the House, even by just one seat.
We have to. I encourage everyone to listen to this whole speech from Bannon from over the weekend. I'll retweet it on my account once I find it, because he was on fire. People were hanging on every single word this guy was saying.
And then, starting on high noon on the 20th of January, when President Trump takes his hand off the King James Bible, now, are all you folks going to be there on that day? You better be. We're going to have one hell of a party that night, are we not? They haven't seen a party like that since Andrew Jackson's crowd showed up, taking the drapes out of the White House. I think after Biden, we're going to have an exorcism, correct? That afternoon?
Yep.
For Joe Biden and Dr. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, all in the Biden, they're a bunch of feral dogs, right? It's a family of feral dogs.
They're going to need to burn some sage in the White House once Trump gets back in. But Bannon vowed for vengeance against those who have weaponized the DOJ against Trump, and this is where people were really getting into it. He says, we're going to have every single receipt. We're going to go to the fullest extent of the law. We're going to investigate, prosecute, incarcerate people. And I don't know about you, but I hear this and I say, it's about time. Part of me says, I'll believe it when I see it. But this is what we want to see.
President Trump, when he takes this stand tonight, is now eligible for 700 years in prison. They want him to serve all of it. They've bankrupted him. They've smeared his name. And on July 11th, they're going to start by giving him a several-year prison sentence and have Judge Merchant be the custodian of where he can go and how he campaign and direct election interference. Let me tell the people that have done that to President Trump, whether you're in the federal government or whether you're down in the state of Georgia or you're in Arizona, or you're in Michigan. We are going to go and we're going to get every single receipt. And to the fullest extension of the law, you are going to be investigated, prosecuted, and incarcerated. Okay? We are not going to stop.
That's what people want. He says this has nothing to do with retribution. It has nothing to do with revenge. It has to do with justice. And the crowd loved it. Again, that was Steve Bannon on stage during Turning Point Action's People's Convention over the weekend. I was lucky enough to be there in attendance. It was a wild weekend in Detroit. MAGA boat parades down the Detroit River. And people are pissed. People want to see Trump get back in the White House. But, at the same time, people are concerned. And I think there are still a lot of questions that haven't been answered about 2020. And people have those concerns. Even Elon Musk is calling for the elimination of electronic voting machines over hacking concerns. Elon Musk says that there are hacking concerns. He posted this on Saturday. Elon called for the elimination of electronic voting machines out of concerns that the results could be manipulated or hacked. These are fears everybody holds. These are fears that Democrats held before 2016. I have extensive audio of Jerry Nadler talking about this very thing, how these electronic voting machines can be hacked. Democrats don't say this stuff anymore. Now Democrats say it's the most secure elections in history, right? But these were their concerns as well. And Musk's comments were in response to a recent Associated Press report highlighting hundreds of voting irregularities in Puerto Rico's primary elections, which, of course, were attributed to electronic voting machines supplied by the U.S. company Dominion Voting Systems. Elon Musk, quote, tweeted Robert F. Kennedy highlighting the Puerto Rico primary election and their hundreds of voting irregularities, according to the Associated Press. And Elon Musk said, we should eliminate electronic voting machines. The risks of being hacked by humans or AI, while small, is still too high. Let's go back to paper ballots. The AP report revealed that Puerto Rico's election commission is reviewing its contract with Dominion after discovering that the machines were incorrectly calculating vote totals. Machine-reported vote counters were revealed to have been lower than the actual paper ballots. Machines also reversed certain totals and reported 0 votes for candidates. Puerto Rico Election Commission Interim President Jessica Padilla said the concern is that we obviously have elections in November. We must provide the island not only with assurance that the machine produces a correct result, but also that the result it produces is the same one that is reported. And this revelation prompted Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to post the article, emphasizing that Puerto Rico had a paper ballot trail which allowed the issue to be identified and corrected. And he raised concerns about what might happen in jurisdictions without such a paper trail. RFK Jr. said, what happens when there is no paper trail? U.S. citizens need to know that every one of their votes were counted and that their elections cannot be hacked. We need to return to paper ballots to avoid electronic interference with elections. So independent candidates want paper ballots. Conservative candidates want paper ballots. And Democrats will tell you that 2020 was the most secure election in history. The concerns are real. The concerns are real. But we have to keep pushing, right? Trump says you got to make it too big to rig. And Trump is doing that by winning over the black community. Trump is doing that by going into the heart of deep blue territories where Joe Biden's not. And he's doing that by campaigning hard. They're going to try and take it away, either via house arrest or prison come July 11th. But he's got to keep pushing. He has to. Carolyn Leavitt from Trump's team, she's the spokeswoman, said that Trump's pattern of visiting deep blue territories in this country to talk to voters and bring his winning message to them is working. She also revealed that Trump is going to be doing an event at a local black church moderated by Byron Donalds. I played audio from that. Trump is meeting people where they're at. And the Democrats have taken photos from that event out of context and showed white people in the crowd and said, see, it wasn't a black church. It's such a joke. Carolyn says no Republican candidate in the history has ever received this high a percentage of the youth vote. President Trump is winning with these voters in a big way, and it's for a reason, she said, pointing to Biden's broken promises. First is the young people are realizing that Joe Biden is a corrupt career politician who's never delivered on a promise he's ever made. And he promised young people he would forgive their student loans. That hasn't really happened. He promised young people that he would bring peace around the world. The opposite has happened. He's brought chaos in the Middle East and in Ukraine. Joe Biden promised he would bring down the cost of living after COVID. He shut down our economy further. He put billions of dollars into the economy unnecessarily. And now we have record high inflation crisis as a result, which is robbing young people of their futures. Trump is winning the youth vote because youth voters can't move out of their parents' house. They can't afford to take their spouse on a date. They understand what's going on. Under Biden, mortgage rates are 7.5% and climbing every single month because Biden won't or can't bring down the cost of living. He continues to pump unnecessary money into the economy, and he won't unleash the might of our energy industry. So young people can't afford to buy a home. They're burdened with thousands of dollars of debt. Credit card debt in this country has never been higher. And mortgage rates under Trump were at a record low, 2.6%. And inflation was non-existent. People want to get back to that. People want to get back to that. The young people want to be able to live their lives and have some version of the American dream. But you can't in Biden's America. You just can't. And Trump keeps playing for the youth voters. I'm sure you saw he did an interview with Logan Paul. I'm not like a huge fan of Logan Paul, but Logan Paul has a podcast called Impulsive, and it's hugely popular with the youth. Hugely. And Trump sat down and he did an interview with Logan Paul. He's meeting people where they're at. And they had kind of like a loose, fun conversation. It makes Trump look human. They're talking about aliens. And Trump said that he's had pilots who are not conspiratorial or crazy tell him that they've seen the inexplicable. He made that remark during Logan Paul's podcast. He even did like a mock face-off with Logan Paul that was all over the internet. It makes Trump look human. Makes him real. And everybody that's around him says that's the guy you see all the time. I cannot wait for this debate. We are 10 days away. Mark your calendar. CNN on the 27th. It's going to be awesome. 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy in studio with me, Chris Hand. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
What's up, dude?
I don't know. What's going on with you?
Nothing. You have like this weird alfalfa thing sticking up because of the locks for Trump. You put your headphones on. It was like a little alfalfa.
Is that better?
Yeah, smooth.
Better.
How's the hair going?
It's great. I can't wait till it gets in my mouth. I know we're at some point during the summer months, and we're not there yet, but at some point, somewhere around middle of July, somewhere around the Republican National Convention, I'm going to have horrible regrets over all of this. But right now, we're going strong.
There's going to be neck sweat on the back of your neck incoming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You ever have long hair?
No. This is the longest it's been.
It's not very long.
No.
I had it down when I was in college. I was like a neo-hippie.
Neo-hippie?
Yeah. Down to the middle of my back. I didn't wear shoes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the no shoes thing is cool. Like, you got to ground.
So,
are you a fan of grounding?
So we, my buddy Wayne and I would do contests outside of the humanities building at West Georgia College where we would put lighters to our pads, our heel pads, and see who could hold them there for. But you don't notice the heat for a long time if you develop up those calluses. And so it was dangerous times, but it was fun.
You're just burning your feet?
Oh, we used to burn our feet, yeah.
All right.
I got a degree, too, so there you go.
You're like running across the hot coals.
But, yeah, I've had it long before. I get it. I understand it. You know, I understand what long hair is, but let's see how long it gets by November. I need a sponsor for this segment. That's what I'm pushing now on the Matt Murphy Show.
Is that what you were going for?
It's not what I was going for originally, but now I'm like, if I'm going to do this, we need some sort of hair club for men or something.
Sponsored by Supercuts.
I don't know. PAI Medical is a sponsor of my show. I don't know why they're not sponsoring this, but, we'll find out if maybe, Supercuts or some men's barber salon wants to come on board.
Fantastic, Sam.
Sure. I'm you know me. I'm a free agent. I'm ready to go.
So, Matt, what about the facial hair? Is that going to...
Facial hair's not included.
Oh, okay.
Not included.
All right. So we're not going to have the Ken Weaver thing down to the navel.
No. But we went over the rules in depth because I asked a simple question, Hand. Is a trim a cut?
Yes.
And because I was suggesting that maybe a trim would be permissible.
It's not.
And that's what it's been 100%. I mean, you don't think people can get together on something nowadays? You think we're a divided nation? We're a divided state? 100%. No, you're not allowed to get a trim.
You can't do it.
It's not allowed. So
what do you got coming up on the show?
We're gonna talk Covenant School a little bit. So obviously there's a big hearing going on in Nashville today regarding the press and their ability to cover leaked information regarding what was commonly referred to as the manifesto. And I happen to agree with something that I heard over the weekend regarding the Covenant School. One of the biggest issues that we have is that this thing started to be referred to as a manifesto. And it's not really a manifesto. It's the ramblings of a crazy person that has been convinced by a sick society that if you just change she to he, that's going to cover up all of your mental issues.
Yep.
And that is not the case. So we're going to cover that today, and then we'll have our good friend Brink Fiddler with Defense Systems going to stop by in the 2 o'clock hour and talk to us about personal and self-defense.
I'm excited for that. It's crazy how they've manipulated the language, and we know that society's pushing this on kids, right? Mm-hmm. As far as the covenant stuff. But I was listening to Trump over the weekend in Detroit, and he's like making these promises, and it's like, I won't allow men and women's sports. We won't give funding to schools that are pushing woke gender ideology on kids. And I was sitting there watching. I'm thinking to myself, could you imagine in the 1980s Reagan making these same promises?
Right.
And how that would have been taken by the audience.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with you?
Right? Like how far we have been pulled left by the lunatics in this country.
Right.
And now we're the evil ones for opposing it.
Yeah, we're the crazy ones for suggesting that men are men and women are women.
Ah!
I mean, right?
How dare you?
It's insane. And we're going to talk about democracy versus a republic, which is always my favorite subject on the Matt Murphy Show.
People get heated.
People get very mad.
It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.